International. On government to guarantee the safety of journalists in Cameroon and to bring to book those involved in the assassination after fuel price increase in Cameroon. Cameroonians remain unconsoling amid general price hike of basic necessities. And corruption watchdog Transparency International has echoed that Cameroon remains a sanctuary of embezzlers of public funds and warns the country's anti-corruption fight is not helping things out. The 6:15 news rolls out in a split second. And visit the website for more news on Canal International. Click to the Facebook and, of course, on YouTube. And I will begin with this breaking news strictly into our newsroom. A motor accident along the Douala-Yaoundé road axis has actually claimed the lives of 8 persons. And according to report from our correspondent in Edea, a 9-seater picnic vehicle from Douala to Yaoundé went on a head-on collision with a truck from Yaoundé. 8 persons perished on the spot, while the lone survivor is on a nadir. The survivor has been ferried to a hospital facility in Douala. We will be bringing you updates as more information trickles into our newsroom. This morning, a delegation of bureau members of the Douala chapter of the Cameroon's Employed Journalists Association, SNGC, led by its president, Aristide Ekambi, dropped a declaration at the governor's office for him to guarantee the safety of journalists. Ekambi-led delegation also mounted pressure for the assassins of Martinez Sogo to be brought to book. Details with Sherifa Saleh.
Cloaked in black attires and looking fearless, these journalists from different media houses in Douala, under the banner of Cameroon Journalists Trade Union, are bent on mounting pressure on government so they get to the roots of the brutal assassination of Martinez Sogo. The media men also want investigation results to be brought to limelight.
It's still news to us because even as we continue doing our job, we still mourn and want clarity on the situation. The first thing is that we're telling the governor that we journalists, we need protection. We want the authorities to guarantee our protection. We cannot continue to do a job where you don't know the next minute what will happen to you.
Their presence at the governor's office this Wednesday is quite symbolic. Besides meeting him face to face, the letter from the SNGC is to ensure government guarantees the security of journalists in Cameroon.
We want government to give clarity on the situation on the ground. It's a good thing that the President of the Republic has already ordered for investigations into the murder, but we want to continue to mount pressure until the truth comes out because we want justice.
The Cameroon Journalists Trade Union is determined to continue to push through with their strategies that will pressurize government towards making their investigations public. For now, journalists and sympathizers are still mourning the departed journalist Martinez Sogo.
Thanks very much, Sheriff Saleh. After 5 years at the Kondongo Maximum Prison, former Defense Minister, former Transport Minister Edgar Alemebengos has been slammed 30 years in prison for the embezzlement of public funds. He was sentenced last night alongside his wife and 3 other accomplices for related charges. Our Yaoundé Bureau correspondent Haisincha reports.
It was at 12 midnight this Wednesday morning when the hard verdict of the Special Criminal Court in Yaoundé fell on Edgar Alain Mebengo and 4 others. The former Minister of Transport slammed 30 years imprisonment for fictitious market deals worth over 23 billion CFA francs. His wife, Bernadette Mebengo, condemned for 10 years, and 9 years for Victor Meunier, while Colonel Ghislain Boto and Maxime Bangue will have to spend 25 years each behind bars for swindling of state funds and other related offenses. A bad night for defense lawyers who questioned the court's decision.
Trial doesn't really look as what we have had as debates all along the hearings here. And I'm wondering the real reasons of that decision.
The legal minds, however, pledged to continue the fight for the review of the heavy sentence.
I hope that at the Supreme Court there will be another case. I can think that there will be more efficient, more efficacious, and they will read the law.
It is worth noting that the former minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense, arrested in 2018, was earlier declared during the court hearing not guilty for the alleged embezzlement of 196 billion of state funds.
Thanks very much, Hyacin. Shall we stay with you as you see that corruption watchdog Transparency International has said that Cameroon remains a sanctuary of embezzlers. The watchdog actually says that if nothing is done, Cameroon will still be progressing in corruption as embezzlers of fabulous sums of money are still roaming about. Details with you.
Government's recent announcement of an increase in the price of fuel, which takes effect February 1, has been described as a blow on the face to many road users. This is a taxi driver in the city of Douala who expresses frustration, saying, though the prices of fuel have increased, drivers find it challenging to immediately increase transportation fare in the twinkle of an eye. To these two other road users, transportation may not have been affected at the moment, but the days ahead could be catastrophic. A situation which to some road users is unfriendly to the poor masses.
The increase in fuel, the increase in so many things, it has affected everybody. The economy is not so that favorable to people. So all we have to do is to do with it because we cannot bargain on it. The populace cannot bargain on it because since government have decided, you only have to do with it. The bike man have to increase, the taxi have to increase, and then we do with it. Even the rich, it affects them. The poor, it affects them. So entirely everybody is affected in this scenario.
Some are those who have justified government's action in raising the prices of petroleum products.
We knew these things and it's global. It's inflation. So
road users continue to hope that government revisits her decision while trusting God's intervention.
We only pray for God's intervention. And if our government could at least find a way to bring those things down in order to better the masses, the life of the masses, and the life of the poor masses, that will do us good.
Thanks very much. We're sorry for that mix-up there. That was Stephanie Chin reporting there on the frustrations of Cameroonians following the increase in fuel prices. We shall be coming back to Hyacin. The World Transparency International has said, and as the fuel price increase, Cameroonians are still expressing worries why the country, endowed with a lot of natural resources, cannot benefit from it. Gladys Ambo Dibang in the following report tells that Cameroon will still experience an increase in price if nothing is done with its refinery.
Cameroon consumed at least 40,000 barrels per day of oil in 2016 and produced 92,469 barrels per day of oil. The national oil refinery Sonora, which was created in the early 1970s to satisfy local demand of all types of combustible, was the main supplier of fuel in Cameroon. In 2018, the company's total production was 221,296 cubic meters of petroleum products. April same year, the refinery stopped production with hopes to rehabilitate its installations so that its total capacity could reach 2,100,000 cubic meters annually. That is when the Cameroon government was forced to import fuel, about 973,559 cubic meters, to supply the refinery to cover the national market needs of 2018. During that period, it imported crude oil from Nigeria and other neighboring countries. But the worst happened in 2019 when a storage tank of Sonara exploded, sparking fire that ravaged 4 of its production units. Since then, Cameroon, an oil-producing country, has been importing all the fuel it consumes. This has led to Cameroon experiencing recurrent fuel shortages in the recent past. Supply disruptions as a result of the Russian war in Ukraine has worsened the situation as well as the country's limited foreign reserves. And because Cameroon depends on imported fuel, the government is obliged to subsidize fuel to prevent suffocating the local population with high cost of the commodity. For example, in 2022, government spent close to 800 billion francs CFA to subsidize fuel. But the Bretton Woods institutions have been pressuring government to stop the subsidies with conviction that as it is undertaking structural reforms, it should use the money to invest. The pressure has led government to drop subsidies by half, and the result is the current increase in the prices of fuel that has gone effective this February 1, 2023. To experts, the fuel price increase is not a solution to the exploitation of Cameroon's potentials. They suggest the Bretton Woods institutions would have rather pressured government to lobby funds and rehabilitate Sonara and construct a hydrocracker unit for the company, plans which government is already undertaking by signing agreements over refinery debt restructuring with oil traders.
And we move back to our lead story, or one of our lead stories, where corruption watchdog Transparency International has warned or says that Cameroon remains a sanctuary of embezzler, and has warned that Cameroon may rather redress in the fight against corruption in 2023 rather than progressing. Now, this is as a result of continuous embezzlement of fabulous sums of public funds daily. Hyacinth.
According to Transparency International, Cameroon in 2022 occupies the 142nd position out of 180 countries in the fight against corruption, with a score of 26%. This is far below the expected level, and there is fear of a backward drop in the future. The report presented to the press this February 1st in Yaoundé reveals that the embezzlement of state funds is still on the rise. Persistent black deals in the award of public contracts, and bad governance in public offices. The COVID-19 funds we report still awaited till date, and the fishy deals surrounding the Olembe Sports Complex, among others, are elements to project Cameroon as a regressing nation in the fight against corruption. Transparency International equally underlines that some authorities are taking advantage of the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions to perpetuate unaccepted acts of corruption. The most talked line 65 and 69 of the state's budget, with untraceable billions, is another element that has brought Cameroon backward in the fight against corruption. As way forward, the Global Civil Society Organization urged Cameroon to hasten and ratify the African Union Convention for the Fight Against Corruption, as well as intensify the application of Article 66 of the Constitution, which demands the obligatory declaration of property before assuming a public office.
And we stay with you. Elections. Cameroon has begun scrutinizing files of different candidates and political parties that are vying for seats at the Senate come March 12, 2023. The treatment process started today during an ordinary session of that body chaired by its chair, Eno Abrams Egbe, who urged board members to strictly abide by the electoral laws. Hyson.
It is the second ordinary session as of right after the convening of the senatorial elections for March 12. Members of the electoral board meeting 4 days after the 28 February deadline for the submission of candidates' list for the exercise. The session has a major objective to begin scrutinizing the bulk of files.
It's intended to examine and the different communications that have been sent forward to us. At the end of the process, the board will publish the list of accepted candidates, and the Director General will establish the list of rejected candidates. All of this will be done in a few days.
Opening the deliberations at the Elections Cameroon headquarters in Yaoundé this February 1st, Elekam Board Chair Eno Abrams Egbe reminded the board members of the Regalian mission of ensuring the compliance to the electoral law to guarantee the regularity, impartiality, objectivity, transparency and sincerity of the 2023 senatorial elections.
Thanks to Hyacinth, women in Cameroon still face a lot of barriers in attaining leadership position. The barrier appears in both physical and ideological space. But the problem is real. Reason why there was a capacity building workshop that pulled scores of women in Douala. Morindi was part of that session.
Though gender experts acknowledge strides as far as women's involvement in politics and leadership representation in key sectors in Cameroon, they, however, say the gap is still very wide.
Financially, they usually don't have the resources. Sometimes they don't even have the collateral. Getting into politics needs a lot of resources, not just human resources, financial resources. They don't have that. They are usually not very outgoing. So they don't create the necessary networks that can give them that support to stand. There are many others. They have social problems, they have family problems.
Talking about women representation in political participation, experts still decry the 30% recommended quota that had not been attained.
For the women, representation is 23%, and we think that that is too low. It's too low, and we can do better. And I think that through sensitizations, through workshops like this, we are going to reach out to more women, those who are aspiring to be politicians.
Conscious of these shortcomings, NASLA, backed by the Canadian government, is building the capacity of women in politics and leadership. The Douala Conclave, that will span for 3 days, brought together representatives of regional councillors, members of regional assembly, teachers of higher education, and members of the civil society organizations.
Worked with NASLA to create the environment for women who are already exercising leadership within their communities to take that leadership and bring it into the political forum where decisions are made so that they can have a voice and a say in decisions that are going to affect their lives.
We've learned to be able to identify who we are, the qualities that we have, because most often we have these qualities, we don't even know that we have them.
The grassroots and with communication approach is to build confidence in women. Many say is the best approach, especially at a time Cameroon is poised for another senatorial election.
Thanks very much, Morindi. Drawing the curtains for the 6:15 news. Alain Gislet Kanga will be here at 7:50 for the French edition. Meantime, coming up will be Janice Kanga with the brief. I've been Kejang Henry Athembe, thanking you graciously for watching. Stay blessed.